Hey guys, I'm Alana from Win Win,
And I'm Jess from Win Win.
and it is May the 22nd, 2023. In this episode of Insights, we're going to be talking about how to get prepared for your interview. Every man, woman, and child at the moment is getting shortlisted for interviews with the world's biggest mining companies, and yet so many of them keep doing them over and over again and bombing them. So in this one, we're going to be going through how to prepare and some of our best tips. So Jess, do you want to start it off with number one?
Sure. So, number one is preparing for your interview. What are you going to wear? Obviously, a lot of the time people are doing virtual interviews now, but you still want to dress and act exactly like you were walking into an office to do an interview. What you're going to take with you? Are you going to have pen and paper? You're going to have a copy of your resume with you so that you can go through it, or you can give that to them if they are there, and you can just make sure that you're, giving the right details and you've got all your dates correct. If you are going to a physical interview, where are you going? Planning your routes, being really well prepared, taking an umbrella if the weather's going to be crap, like just making sure that you've got all your bases covered so you get up on that day and you're fully prepared to go in and nail that interview.
100%. And a lot of people are going for the virtual interviews at the moment. So that also, you need to be taking into consideration where you're doing that from. What's your internet like? Are you doing it from work? Are you doing it from your donger at work where your neighbors are you're going to hear like, God knows what? Or are you doing it from home? If you are, make sure that you've got a little note on your door saying, Mum, please don't come and annoy me for the next hour or so while I do this. Also, what sort of lighting? What sort of, have you got a microphone there? How are you doing this? Is your dog going to run into the in while you're filming? That is some of the main things that you need to take into consideration as well for the virtual ones. Anything else to add with that, Jess?
I think it's just think of it. It's still a professional interview. It is still an interview, whether you're doing it face to face or on Zoom. You just really need to think about what you're doing, how you're presenting yourself, and what you're wearing, and that you're just putting your best foot forward and giving that best first impression.
Yeah, 100%. First impressions last every single time, and that can be the catalyst for you to go forward to the either face-to-face or group interview. So you need to hit it from, lead with your best foot, so they say. So yeah, that's really it on that one. But number two I want to talk about is how you're going to be answering these questions. So as we all know, for especially some of the world's biggest mining companies, the first question you're going to get is, what do you know about the company and why are you the best candidate for the job, along those lines? If you do get that question, which you are most likely 100% going to get, I must say, then you've got to be prepared for that question as well. So we will go into that later. But what I really wanted to get into was how you're going to be answering the questions. A lot of people just go straight in, but there's actually two good methods to answering that, and that is repeating the question back. When you repeat the question back, that allows you to solidify in your own mind what the actual question was, so you can target your answer to make it sound cohesive. Also, the STAR method. Jess, have you ever heard of this before?
I have heard of the STAR method, and it's an awesome method, and it's literally what it is situation, task, action, and the result of all of that. And it's a really good way to set yourself up and prepare for your interview, to go through some of your answers of the questions you'll most likely get asked, which we do have the questions in another video. If you check out our YouTube, we do have all the questions you're going to be asked, and they are in our group if you need them. To go through and actually put those answers together. So like Alana said, they're cohesive, they make sense, and you're ticking all those boxes as you go through and answer the questions. You're not just rambling nonsense.
Yeah, 100%. The STAR method is basically the best way to answer questions because it creates a nice little story with here's the situation, here's what I was tasked with, these were the actions, and this was the result. So if you can wrap up all of your questions, or the ones that you can anyway, utilizing the STAR method, you're going to sound way more cohesive than just rambling on, like Jess said, and then you lose track of what you're saying, and then you're like, what am I talking about? I've got no idea. So look into the STAR method. If you need help with that, we can definitely do that for you. All right, the next one is closing the gap. Right, Jess, do you want to give this one a bit of a chat?
So what you want to do is the job. Sometimes, obviously, if you're going for a dump truck traineeship, which all of Australia is, and you're a librarian, you need to try and figure out how you're going to close that gap in an interview. Obviously, you've got an awesome resume, which has done that for you on paper because you've got through to the interview stage. But you need to figure out how you're going to word your answers and what tasks within your role that you can make relevant to the role you're going for. It could be, daily logbooks you have to do for work, or data entry, or you may operate tractors on the weekend, who knows, but you need to really figure that out before you go in, because if you're sitting there and they say, why do you think you're going to be good at this job, and what skills do you have that you think are going to transfer over, and you go and get really stuck, it's not going to be a good look. So you really need to figure that out, and we can help you with that. If you are in a completely random job and you don't know how to get in, we can help you figure out how to close that gap with your resume, and with you as well, to figure out how you're going to interview well with this.
Yeah, 100%. And even like when it comes down to like thinking outside the box as well, if you are, let's say, a librarian, or you're a teacher or something like that, and you're going for a dump truck traineeship, which has actually happened multiple times, and we've helped people to get past it. Even like think about, what do you do on the weekends? Do you mow your own lawn? What safety systems are you familiar with, right? So you're operating a bit of machinery. Think about what you can actually utilize. If you've got zero experiences or qualifications that would make you a good candidate for the job, sometimes that can be your selling point, because it can be the fact that you don't come with all the bad habits that an operator has. Although, keeping in mind, traineeships, basically it's a traineeship for a reason, because it is basically they're starting you off from nothing. So just find out and have a good think about what you can actually use when it comes to answering those questions, because every single time you're going to get asked along the lines of maybe different wording, but why are you the best person for the job? Why do you want this job? Why would you be an asset to the team? So it's really simple. That is the number one question. And I dare say, if you answer that first question properly, that is half the battle won right there. So that comes down to, and especially I get people, what do you know about the company, and why do you want to work for us? You're the world's like, you're a mining company. No deal. They want to hear that you've done the research. So go into the website, have a look at the website, and find something that is legitimately motivational for you, or inspirational as to why you legitimately want to work for that company and how it's going to change your life. The more you can dig down after the initial thing of, I want more money. Yeah, great. What are you going to do with that money? How's that going to change your life? Are you going to be able to buy a house, be able to, put your kids through school, whatever it's going to be? That's where you really need to dig down further and close that gap. So let's go over. In fact, we've pretty much just done it. Some of the most commonly asked questions. Jess, what do you think is the most stupidest question that gets asked during an interview?
What are your greatest professional strengths and weaknesses? I've always struggled with that, and I think it's something that everybody does, because you just feel so cheesy giving, my strength is that I'm just I'm just too great at, I'm just too great at my job, or I'm just so punctual. It is a silly question, but it 90% of the time it gets asked.
Yeah, 100%. When we do interviews, I have scrapped that. I'm not even asking people that. What's your greatest weakness? Let me just pause this for a second. Because it's pretty much the stupidest question, right? And the way that you answer that is two ways. You either you basically dig your own hole and say, I've got a habit of punching on with my workmates, if that's the greatest weakness, or then you flip it around and try to turn your greatest weakness into a positive. So it just really, really depends on that. But it's a stupid question. But obviously some of the other questions, why do you want to work for us? Safety, tell us about a time when you saw something unsafe. What did you do about it, and what was the result? These are some of the questions that you're going to get asked. So you really need to, again, think about your career that you've had and how you can target those questions, your answers, to be hitting the keywords as well. A lot of the virtual ones, they are based upon AI. So if you're not hitting this keyword, or if you're not saying it like this, or, basically you can get filtered out. So yeah, that's one of the key things there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people too, the question that comes up a lot that a lot of people struggle with is, have you seen something unsafe and what did you do about it? And it is a common question, but I think a lot of the time they want to hear about your safety, but they also want to hear that you felt confident to actually follow the chain of command if you needed to report something if it was unsafe, and that you actually were communicating, with your peers and with your colleagues in a professional way, and you weren't causing dramas or making something out of nothing. So that can be another question that can be really important in your interview that you probably have never even thought about before.
Yeah, 100%, because as we all know, especially in the mining industry, it is a dangerous industry. They want people who are going to be able to recognize that something is potentially unsafe and then action it to make sure that it doesn't turn into a fully blown incident. So 100%, that's where you need to be able to relay that you're confident enough to stop a job if there is something potentially hazardous going to happen. So it could cause an incident.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. Any other questions that you think might be relevant that we should talk about, Jess?
I just think the same thing that we always get asked, what do you say? Why do you want to work for us, or what do you find? And I think, like you said, it comes down to your values. You really need to go through the company's website. You need to see what their values are. I had a random one a few weeks ago that the client that I was working with was like, I don't know, like what, like loyalty, like gender equality, like none of that. But then once she actually dug in, she was really into environmental stuff, and she'd worked a lot as an environmental officer, and so that actually aligned with their environmental policies. And you just have to really think, like you said, think outside the box and figure out what it is that would align you with this company in a more honest way, not just reading their values and memorizing them.
Yeah. And a lot of people do that. Like, even when we're doing the interview preparation sessions, the amount of times people just regurgitate the website. It's like, yeah, that's great. It shows that you've done a little bit of research here. But what is your genuine motivation, right? Because everyone's motivation is, I want more money. I want a secure career. That's everyone's motivation. But what is that going to mean to you? Especially I say to people, like, what sort of an example are you going to set? If you're a 19-year-old female and you're wanting to get a traineeship, what example is that setting for your family, for your friends? How is that going to change your life? It's going to set you up for life. It's going to take you down a career path that could lead to anywhere, basically. So yeah, that's where I think getting realistic and finding what your authentic motivation is way more going to tick the box than just, I want to earn more money like every other person, or tell us why you're the best person for the job. Because I'm motivated. Like, the amount of time I say that, you're motivated and the whole of Australia is motivated as well. So what else can you do that's not a cliche? Tell us about yourself, and don't give us every cliche under the sun, because everybody else has already done that. It's so integral to just make sure that you're interviewing properly.
Yeah, it is. And I think it comes down to, as well as kind of that next step, is making that connection with your recruiter, that as a real genuine person about why you want to do it and your goals. Because I know with us, when we're interviewing people or we're dealing with people, when they're really honest with you and you connect with them in that way, it makes such a big difference within the recruitment process, because they really stick in your mind when you make that connection with them.
Yeah, 100%. And that's basically the next point on when you are going for a face-to-face interview, you want to create rapport with your interviewer, right? You don't want to just be freaking out, like a fully, professional transaction, obviously, but you want to have that create that rapport so that you are going to be memorable in their mind, instead of just the 100 other people that they're going to be interviewing after you. So how do you do that? Obviously, from the get-go, you want to be starting to make small talk. You want to make sure that even before or when you walk into that interview, if you're talking to the site admin or whatever it might, or the administrator, every single person who comes across you is judging you. And if you're a dick to, pardon my French, to the admin, or you're rude, or you're flustered, or whatever it might be, which everyone's flustered at an interview generally. But still, that could potentially go back to the hiring manager or the recruiter, and they'll just be like, look, this person had a bad attitude. They came in, yeah, sure, they were late, whatever it might be. But yeah, you want to create rapport and just lead off with being a good example while you're in there. And also the mirroring technique, right? Whatever your recruiter is doing to get that rapport and insight into what they're thinking, you can actually start mirroring the way that their body language is as well. Then basically that helps you to create rapport.
Definitely. And I think the small talk is a big one, and it can be really hard to do when you're nervous and you're on the spot and you're feeling awkward and uncomfortable anyway. But I think you always think, especially going in for a face-to-face interview, every single person that you come across, whether it's the receptionist or the admin or anyone that you come across, you treat them as if they're going to give you the job. You be nice, you be friendly. If you've got a minute and you're waiting, how was your weekend? Have a chat. Just really try and be really super friendly, chat to everyone. and make that small talk and try and build that connection and that rapport, because it does make a difference. And the mirroring the body language makes a massive difference as well. Everyone relaxes. You feel like the communication is good. It's really great tools to use.
Yeah, 100%. Now, one of the things that even when we're doing interviews as well with candidates, potential candidates, we do ask the last question, which is generally, do you have any questions for us? Now, a lot of candidates just be like, nah. And like, quite frankly, I mean, sometimes, yes, we do very, very thorough interviews when we are doing with people, but still there are so many great questions that you could actually be asking at your interview. So Jess, tell us about some of these questions.
I think the best one to ask is, how long until I find out about whether I have a job or not? And depending on what that answer is, if they give you a concise answer and say, I will call you by Friday at 5 o'clock, you go, okay. But if they say, we're not sure, it'll have to go through a process. Okay, when can I call to find out? When's a good time to call? Can I follow up with you and give you a call on Friday and see how my application is going? That's our favorite one to ask. Another good one to ask is to flip it on them, which also comes back to building that rapport and kind of making more small talk and getting them to talk about themselves, is, what do you like about working for the company? And are there opportunities to progress within this role once I do start, if I get the job? So I think they're all awesome questions to ask.
Yeah, definitely. Like asking questions like, what's the food like? What's the roster like? Do I get a hotel? Like, is it moteling? Do I get a permanent room? Stuff like that. Those are all like vital questions to ask. But obviously, if you want to like level up your questions, that's where you ask things where you can actually show as well, like, what are the opportunities to progress within this role? Obviously, you don't want to go in like all gung-ho and be like, all right, well, how soon can I get on the loader? Or how soon can I get on the dozer? But because they want to make sure that you're actually going to get in there and master that job. So you could even reword that like, after I've mastered this, learning to drive the dump truck, what are the opportunities to progress within the company after that? Can I go into safety, potentially supervisory roles? How long to get onto the other equipment? Those are all key questions that you could actually ask, instead of just like, do you have any questions for us? No. You know what I mean? All good.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, a lot of the questions about site and roster and flights and medicals and all that stuff, your recruiter might not actually deal with you. You may deal with a mobilization coordinator or someone else, so they might not even have those answers. So it's generally better to wait until you've been offered the job, and that's when you ask all of those questions.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of the time they're pretty much answered in there anyway, right? There's not really that many times that we'll do an interview where we won't say, okay, the site is this site, it's a 2-in-1 roster, this is the money, this is that, it's all laid out on the table right there. So maybe like, to show, to leave a better impression than other candidates who will just be like, nah, all good. When do I start? Those are some of the questions that you want to ask yourself as well. Another one that I came across recently that I thought was actually a really, really great question to ask at your interview is, so what safety initiatives have you brought in based upon feedback from the crew? That one there, I thought, was an absolutely brilliant question, because, a lot of these companies come to you and they say, yeah, we want some feedback on how we can improve our processes, systems, safety, etc. But then how many companies actually do implement that? That could actually be a really, really fantastic question to ask at your interview, because it will just show, and it might not be good necessarily because the recruiter might not have the answer if they're just a recruiter and they're not like, they don't have I cannot talk today. They don't have insights into what's going on the site. But that could be a fantastic question to ask as well, to gain that insight into the company's safety procedures and policies as well.
Yeah, and it could be that one question that sticks with them too, that they think, man, like, why would they even ask that? And they might be talking to the shift boss or someone else and go, man, this guy,
yeah, what the hell?
And like, do you know the answer to this? And that, that's another awesome reason to do that, is you will stick in their mind. They will remember you for that question for sure.
Yeah. All right. Now, if you're still watching at this point, I'm going to hit you with the number one question that you need to ask at your interview before you leave the room. This question here can basically give you the insight as to whether you've got the job or not. This is a question I have been asked, and I have asked at an interview before, because basically it's like, oh shit. It gives you one opportunity to problem solve any potential negatives that might be in that recruiter's mind. And the question is is there any reason that you wouldn't think that I am the best person for this job right here and now? That basically puts them on the spot to tell you, okay, yeah, well, look, I think you're a fantastic candidate, but there's other candidates who are more experienced than you. Then you hit back with, sure, I completely understand that. However, and then you go into reselling your key selling points again. I basically challenge every single person who's watching this right now to utilize that at your next interview. That can help you to level up and to know whether you've got the job before you actually leave that room. I swear it is absolute fire to ask that question. And it shows you've got balls, because not many people would actually say, basically, you know, besides, have I got the job? Like, but this is just a better way of asking that and mitigating any potential negatives that might actually arise during the interview. Jess, what do you think about that? Would you use that?
I love that. I love that question. And I would be so excited if someone asked me that too, because it would be awesome. I would just be so impressed. I think it's awesome. And yeah, it's a game changer that you're going to know before you walk out of there. They're going to hopefully give you some feedback if there is any negative feedback, and you can mitigate it. You can say, well, no, this and that, not argue it, obviously, but just lay out some points about why you would be good for that. And I think it's awesome, and it really can make or break.
Yeah. No, 100%. And Jess generally touched upon it before, but follow-up phone calls, right? If it is a situation where you can actually ask them, so do you reckon I could call back in like a couple of days, couple of hours, couple of whatever? Just keep in mind, right, that candidates, after doing the interview, there will still be some that drop out. So you want to squeaky wheel the shit out of that interview to make sure that you're the only person on that person's mind when it comes to who are we going to hire for this job. So if you've got the potential to make a follow-up phone call, I say do it. If they say Friday at 2 o'clock, we'll be ringing the person, then obviously just wait till Friday at 2 o'clock. If you don't hear Friday 2:15, then I would ring them. So yeah. Definitely. That goes to as well when you're applying for jobs. The amount of times that I keep saying this to candidates is, have you made a follow-up phone call? No, why would I do that? Oh, I couldn't find the phone number, blah, blah, blah. I get it. BHP or Rio Tinto, it's hard to find a phone number. But for all the other companies that you're applying for, where you do a Google search and you can actually find it, why not call them? Like, seriously, it can be the catalyst to get you over the line over a candidate who doesn't do that.
Definitely. We had a client a few weeks ago that was like, oh, I don't really want to make the follow-up phone calls after I apply. And I was like, you need to make the follow-up phone calls. Just commit to making them. Apply for 5 jobs and make 5 phone calls. And literally he had like 2 interviews and was offered a job within the next few days. And he was like, oh my God, the follow-up phone calls work. And we're like, yeah, honestly, it is so simple, but it is so effective. Always make that follow-up phone call. And again, it could just, someone else could have dropped out and they could be thinking, oh, this is easy, great, this person's back in. Well, they would next, second or third anyway, they'll get it. Yeah. Or it could just be, again, you building that rapport with the recruiter where they remember you from your interview, and then you called again and they're like, wow, this person really is keen, like, let's give them a shot. It really can get you over the line. It's amazing.
Definitely. And if you don't get the job after that, if you make that follow-up phone call and they say, oh, look, sorry, you weren't right for that job, there's no reason why you can't say to them, okay, do you think there's any other positions that you might think I would be good for? Or can you give me any feedback on the way that I interviewed so that I can make it better for next time? And also, I would also say to them, if I didn't happen to get that job, which is never happened. Anyway, I would say after the feedback thing, right, as well, you know, what tips can you give me? And I just want to let you know as well that I'm extremely keen on getting this job. So the next time it comes up, I will advertise, and then I will actually apply for the job, and I will action anything that you tell me, because I really am so keen to work for your company. And then if you want, and if you build that rapport with the person, why not shoot them an email next week or a month later or something like that, or give them a call and say, hey, I'm still interested in the position, blah, blah, blah. Has anything else come available? Do you know what a similar position will be coming available? There's no reason why you can't squeaky wheel and be that person who goes above and beyond the average person who chucks out resumes left, right, and center on Seek, sits back, doesn't hear anything, or even worse, the people who are, you know, doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result is crazy, right? If you're applying for BHP roles or a job with this company, job with that company, and you're getting knocked back 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 100, 200 times, then it comes down to there is something very wrong there. It could be your resume. It could be your interviewing skills. It could be the fact that you're bombing the medical, whatever it might be. And there is always a solution to that every single time. Hey, Jess.
Yep, there definitely is. And if you need help with that, we are experts at troubleshooting. Flick us your resume at info@winwin.com.au. Or give us a call, whatever you're comfortable with, and we can go through, do an analysis of your resume, have a chat to you, help you bridge those gaps between your current job and the job you want to go for, and get you ready for your interview. We can cover it all. So if you're not feeling confident about any of that, especially with the interview process, we can 100% help you. We've got an awesome course called Interview Like a Boss. Or if you want to, you can do a one-on-one interview preparation session with one of us or one of our other consultants, and we can step-by-step walk you through a mock interview and go through everything with you.
Definitely. And we actually do it on Zoom as well, so that you can see what you look like and you can hear the every sentence, because those are not technically a great way to do an interview. So the way it's amazing as well when we do these, the amount of people that go, oh my God, I didn't even realize I did that. I didn't realize I look like that, or whatever, you know what I mean? It can be the catalyst so that the next time when you do your virtual interview, you have that positive feedback so that you can actually get past the virtual interview. So that is the main thing. Of course, if you want to book in for one of these, contact us, info@winwin.com.au. What is the best interview, or do you need help with any interview stuff? Hit us up in the comments section below. We'd love to hear if this has been helpful. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more content to help get you employed. Thanks, Jess. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, Alana. See
Bye.
ya.